Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Executive Table Talk. My name is JT O'Donnell. I'm the founder and CEO of Work It Daily and your host for today. And we are going to be talking about how to improve business etiquette. Before we hopped on today with our amazing experts, we were chatting a bit in the green room, and I was talking about the feedback that I'm hearing from hiring managers and employers today that a lot of people are coming ill prepared for the workplace, particularly Gen Z. And that's because a lot of them graduated during a pandemic and have had only virtual jobs and are not getting into the office, which really brings in an interesting debate. Many people would prefer to stay remote, but if you don't have good business etiquette, that could cost you the job. So we're going to be talking today to three amazing experts. I want to bring them right up onto the stage. Hello, Lisa, Michael, and Catherine. Hope you're all doing well. Let's get into this. Michael, I'm going to have you kick it off. I want to talk about improving business etiquette. You worked for the NFL, operations, finance. You know a lot about business etiquette. What are your thoughts on this subject?
Yes, I love this topic, business etiquette. I define it as a set of manners accepted and required in a business setting that promotes a mutually respectful atmosphere. I think HR should own this area. HR should set the tone for what's acceptable and what is not. A good written policy by HR should spell out the good behaviors in the office, and also an in-person seminar type meeting should also be should be done. And I'll explain more on that a little later. But also we need to remember the courtesies and pleasantries in the office, such as please and thank you, addressing others, Mr. and Mrs., using a pleasant tone, maintaining eye contact, offering firm and confident handshakes and body language, dress code, and keep the conversation on track. At the NFL, we never wanted to have negative contact with law enforcement, negative feedback about the shield. So we had a lot of in-office seminars regarding, especially when some of our players or coaches got in trouble. We had a lot of seminars on DUI, domestic violence, sexual assault, guns, workplace romances. I'll talk more about that in a second. So in these seminars, also, if you didn't show, you had to show up with your VP, and with your VP, and the employee shows up and had to tell the commissioner why they didn't have time to go to one of these meetings. But when it came to DUIs, they had our league supported a sober ride a platform where you can call. So they gave us a free membership to that. Again, talked about domestic violence, sexual assaults. And when it came to guns and, with our players, and they're not telling you to own a gun or have a gun, but they're saying if you have to go somewhere and it requires you to take a gun, maybe you should hire security or something like that. And there's another very interesting talk on guns as far as when you have children and they go to someone's house for an overnight visit. It's a good time for mom or dad to ask the person that they're going to, is there a gun in the home? Sometimes the father is in law enforcement and there is a gun in the home, and sometimes the parents need to know whether the gun is locked up, is it accessible? And that's very important information that a parent should ask. And also workplace romances. I'm just not a fan of that. I wrote a little article on that a little while ago. I'm not a fan on that. I'm there to work, and I don't want my work to be judged by conversations or things at the office. And the last thing I say on that, if it's not mutual, the whole thing fails, because there's been people that say, I've been called in HR and they say, well, she was giving it back to me. We were going back and forth. Well, guess what? She don't like it. So we want this to stop. So that's why I'm not a fan of workplace romances. And violations of business etiquette is considered offensive. So, and it could be punishable. Either a punishment is levied or sometimes termination of employment. So this is what unprofessional offenses could look like. It could be being at work under the influence, misusing company funds, engaging in sexual harassment, a lack of respect for other employees, using foul language, public degrading the organization, engaging in divisive gossip, or violating confidentiality. And my big thing is on the punishment. And when we talk about the punishment, my thing is, should the punishment be levied on the allegation or on the conviction or after the investigation? Sometimes people are a little quick to punish. So it's always been a sticking point. Do we punish the employee when an allegation is made, or should we wait until after the investigation? So that's, different companies handle that differently. Thank you.
Wow. So first of all, thank you for sharing how in depth the NFL gets with their framework of what is acceptable and not acceptable. I have to assume that that's come from years and years of having, okay, yet another experience happened.
Yes.
We're going to have to throw that in the handbook. We're going to have to
Yes.
throw that in the handbook. So to see something so comprehensive like that is great, because it sounds like the audience really needed it, right? Those employees really needed that structure and that frameworks to know what is appropriate and what is not appropriate and what are the consequences for violating that, and causing that inappropriate behavior. Really amazing. And, I think you're lucky when you go to an organization that has got it that well framed out. Not every organization does, for sure. So thank you for sharing that. That was super cool. I want to jump into you, Lisa, and let's talk a little bit about business etiquette with you. When you hear that term, what are you thinking? What are some of the things you keep in mind when you're trying to improve it within your organization?
Yeah. Thank you, JT. In today's competitive business landscape, mastering proper business etiquette is essential for establishing strong professional relationships, for fostering a positive corporate image, and for achieving long-term success. Every interaction contributes to your professional presence, whether that's your effective communication to your respectful conduct, all of that. And here's some things that I've done to leave a lasting impression throughout my corporate time in my career. First is cultivate active listening. That's eye contact, that's nodding to show engagement, that's not interrupting, and that's giving your undivided attention. All of that contributes to effective communication. The other thing is to provide respect, personal and cultural differences. Treat everyone respectfully, regardless of their background, their beliefs, or their values. Avoid making judgments or assumptions based on stereotypes. That's really important. One thing that I've done also throughout my career is master effective communication. And that's both verbal and written. You want to ensure that your messages are articulate, professional, they are easily understood and concise. One thing that a boss told me, and this was really hard for me to hear, is your messages are way too long and nobody is reading them. And I thought, you know what? They have to hear what I have to say. No, they don't. If your messages are paragraphs, it's not working. And I use a KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. I will write it all out and then I'll chop it by 2/3. You really want to be concise. People can follow up with you. They can come and ask you more questions. And that's kind of what you want, but you want to keep it high level. And it's really important to do that. The other thing that I do is I tailor my message to my audience. I recently worked in an environment where you're not going to believe this, but I had one person who liked to only communicate by Zoom chat. I had another person who only liked to communicate by Slack. I had another person who only wanted to Zoom by calls. I had another person who only wanted me to email them. I did it. I did it by their communication style. Did they return the favor? No, they didn't. They didn't communicate by my effective process. But what that did was I got what I needed from them. And that's what you want. You want to tailor to the audience so that you can get more from them. The other thing in terms of mastering effective communication is grammar. I use Grammarly as a tool because I'm not good at it. I make grammar mistakes all the time. So I use it in my email, my presentations. It's really quick. It checks your work. And all of this, when you are pulling all of these tools together, it gives you that credibility and that professionalism. So you want to make sure the whole package is there. The other thing is you want to practice professionalism in your appearance and your behavior. Today, there's business casual, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't make sure that your jeans look nice, your whole, your appearance is put together. I mean, I have a business casual. I've got jeans on. I've got a nice sweater. I'm well put together, and that's what you need. You need to make sure that you're not disheveled. The other thing that you need to do is make sure that when you are presenting yourself, you need to remain calm under pressure, and you need to handle conflicts gracefully and professionally. That's very important in the whole appearance and behavior. The other thing is you need to be respectful of people's time. If you're going to be late to a meeting, you need to tell people, hey, I'm running late. Do you want to reschedule? Or can you wait 5 or 10 minutes? If you're not respectful of their time, they're not going to be respectful of yours. So make sure that all of that you're taking that under consideration. And the last thing I want to mention is show appreciation and gratitude. This is the hallmark of business etiquette. And for me, it has transformed my career. It is the simplest thing you could do. And I would like to challenge you to show appreciation and gratitude every day. Do it at least once, if not 3 times a day, because you never know where something's going to come from, where a great idea is going to come from, where a thought is going to come from. And when you are showing gratitude and appreciation, people are going to give you more because of that. It doesn't mean you have to take somebody's idea or thought. You don't have to at all. But just hearing and listening from them and saying, thank you, I appreciate you, I appreciate your time, I appreciate what you're doing. You get more back when you do that. Just take the time to say thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for doing that work. Even though it's their job, just thank them for doing it. You are going to get so much more back. And just remember that improving your business etiquette is a journey, and it's going to contribute to your overall success in your career.
Oh, I love that. I really do. As you were explaining those things, Lisa, I could see it's like every interaction you have, when people see you or when people hear you or when you're messaging, even digitally connecting with people, etiquette's involved. I literally was taking that way as you were going through. And I just want to say, we have a shout out here from New Life Curator who said this session needs to be part of everyone's onboarding process because it's true. Etiquette, all of it is not being taught. And so it's great that we're going through and hearing today from all of you and getting that checklist. The other thing I just wanted to comment on, I got so excited when you got excited about the idea of showing appreciation. Yeah. We hear about paying it forward all the time. Right now, I wish we could start a paying it forward campaign around appreciation. Yeah. It's like people just stopped. Everyone is so bitter and hurt and struggling from post-pandemic and whatever their problems are that everyone's just stopped being kind. Everyone stopped appreciating folks. And I wish if we all did it forward. You are right. You always get way more back when you show appreciation. So I hope everyone listening today heard that, because I think it's important that we do it.
And it is really it can be transformational for your career if you start to do it. It really can.
Especially as you climb the ranks, right? Because we tend to see a lot of people as they get higher up not show that appreciation. So true. Great stuff. All right, flipping down to Catherine. Catherine, cannot wait to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think about business etiquette and how do you approach it?
Thank you, JT. I just think Lisa, Michael, JT, all of your comments are so interesting and inspiring. An exciting part of being an emerging leader is having the opportunity to design your own professional business etiquette. And it's super important. You should be able to take that time as part of your professional development and be able to read articles and get tips from other people in the industry. And I really value that. I've had the privilege of working for amazing companies like Spotify, Electronic Arts, Warner Music Group. And I have found that each company has a different culture. And there's a lot of value in taking a minute, taking a beat, and going to find what the culture stands for, what the founders want the company to represent. You are the face of this company to third party, in my case, streaming platforms, music labels, vendors. You are the face of that company. So to me, as an onboarding process, just like our our viewer said, it's really important to get a handle on that. Because as I listen to my amazing peers talk about each company's culture, it's kind of funny. As a contractor, I'm able to go in and see how each company works. And so, for example, worked for a very large streaming company, and their culture was really cool. They considered everybody part of the band, which I thought was a great way to coin it. And they definitely had a different approach. They wanted you to use emojis in your emails and a certain type of fun spirit when engaging with record labels and artist teams. And so I always remember, as you go company to company, the cultures are all so different. So it really behooves you to take some time to study a bit. But I wanted to drill down on two areas that are important to me: etiquette in Zoom meetings, etiquette in emails. And I would love to touch on a little phone etiquette if I have a minute. But let's start with Zoom meetings. Just like Lisa said, everybody has really an interesting idea when it comes to professional etiquette and what those needs are. And on Zoom calls, like, the baseline is a couple of quick tips. One, always be on time if you're the host. Get in there. I don't care if you're putting your makeup on in your bathroom, pop it up, get it up, and be on time as a host. Let's start that right off the bat. Second, I am a stickler. I do want the camera on. It's just my thing. I think it shows professionalism. I think you're showing, of course, clients and other third parties that it's an easier way to collaborate and they're able to really connect with you better. If you're presenting, of course, cameras on. But if you're not presenting, I say, okay, if you're in a big group at a webinar, you can turn it off for a minute, but try to hop back on. We're post-COVID now. We've learned a lot about Zoom. Our Zoom game is completely different. So most people know how to show up, and I really find value in showing up face-to-face. On that topic, I do like good lighting. I encourage everyone, it took me a minute to do this, to go out and get your setting to be the proper lighting. Most of us use a ring light. On the opposite side of this computer, I have a ring light, and it just really adds to your presence, especially for replays. It gives you a little bit more confidence when you're presenting, and I'm a big fan of that, of having your setting look professional and having you look the best that you can so you're confident. The second area I want to drill down on a little bit is emailing. It's important to kind of lurk around and study how your team, how your company emails, their email etiquette. And just like Michael said, I feel like HR does own that tone and that process. And I bet you could find out, if you dug a little, the style guide for your company. You could go in and find slides on the type of protocol they want you engaging and the communication style. And I would say start there. I'm also a big fan just on communicating first. Like Lisa said, I like to do one-on-ones when I started a new company at anyone's timeline. It could be 2 weeks out. If it's a VP, I like to do one-on-one and ask them, how do you like to communicate? Do you respond? Do you like to communicate on Zoom messaging? Do you like to communicate on Google Teams? Like, what is your preference? Do you like emails? Like, how do you like to communicate? Because I want to make sure I support your team. And a couple key phrases that can also be used while you're speaking to them one-on-ones or in emails, which I'm going to kind of go into a little bit more. There's a couple things I've learned over time, and I'll share them with you, and I hope you get a pencil out because they're my favorite. When you're engaging verbally with words or an email, these are a few phrases that I've learned and I love so much. The first one is, how can I support you? I mean, that's just such a great opening for any team, and they love hearing that. How can I support your team? I'm here to support your team. Could we meet for a one-on-one so that I can learn how to support your team? The second thing I love is, it's my pleasure. If you get asked to do something and in response, verbally or in writing, it's my pleasure to help you. I'd be happy to do that. Third, this is a gem, you guys. I learned this from a girl in Starbucks, and it really has been part of my world now, and it comes off really well. When you're trying to ask someone for a favor, whether it's through messaging or through an email, I like the words, could I trouble you for XYZ? Or could I trouble you for that information that you had yesterday? There's something really soft about that, and I really like that phrase. And then finally, whenever I send comparatives, sometimes I'm comparing contracts in a red line format, or if I'm looking at trying to get some information, I'll give my opinion, and then I'll ask, what are your thoughts? Every single email of mine has, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? So this does take practice, like Lisa said. It is a journey, but I love using those kind of soft skills, and I've found for myself that it's super helpful. When we go to emailing, one topic I want to talk about is forwarding someone else's email. Let's chat about that. I would like to see a raise of hands. of who has forwarded an email that has had information that someone should not have seen. Okay, this happens to all of us. So when an email is being sent to you and you want to forward it on to a team or has an information, make sure that in your mind, a couple things are going through your head. For example, I'm going to put my paralegal hat on. That information that's forwarded to you could be coveted confidential IP information, even if it's someone making some complaints about something or someone, it's their comments and it is confidential. Ask their permission if you can forward or let them see a forwarded version. Make sure you delete any comments that are not acceptable to forward on and expose that individual. In the back of my mind as a paralegal, we always think whatever you put in writing, even if it's a draft or in storage, can always be used in a court of law. So if you are putting together an email, remember, whatever you put in writing could end up in front of a judge. Mm-hmm. And if you think like that, sometimes you'll maybe pull back a bit on any emotional comments or what you share. And this is the law, that it can be pulled and used in litigation. So make sure whatever you write is representing the situation, the company well. My second tip on emails, if it's an emotional email and you feel emotional about the response, do yourself a big favor, okay? Write the email, put it in your drafts, and the following day, go ahead and revisit it and don't send it until you have a night to sleep on it. Things can be emotional at work. In general, you never want to put anything in writing that's emotional. Pick up the phone, message someone on Slack, try to get on a Zoom call before you put anything in writing in an email. These are just some basics that have really saved me over the years, and that I wanted to share with you. And finally, a little bit on phone etiquette. I know you all know this. I'm just going to say it out loud, especially for our amazing teams that I work with, Gen Z and millennials. A lot of their work and their world revolves around their phone. When you're in a meeting in person, if you're in a meeting on Zoom, the phone is off and on vibrate, always. So those are some of my tips. I hope they're helpful.
Oh, I love it. I love that you really got into the tactics, Catherine. This is the stuff that they don't teach you. And unfortunately, a lot of times you learn it after making the mistake, so it's so funny. I can go back in my own mind when I was first starting out, and you can think of those little mistakes you made and the impression that they left. It's always a learning curve. So folks, don't beat up on yourself. Again, everyone here reinforced that improving your business etiquette is a journey. I actually love that. I love that you said that, Lisa, and that you reinforced that just now, Catherine, because it is. You're always learning. You're always growing. And I would also argue, as Catherine pointed out, depending on the environment you're in, it can change. What was acceptable at one company can be considered unacceptable at another. So you're always on the lookout for what is the proper business etiquette here in this situation. Love it. Love it. Okay, folks, I want to remind you that today we're talking about how to improve business etiquette. I've got 3 of my amazing elite executives from Work It Daily here sharing their insights, dropping some serious knowledge bombs. What you want to do is take a moment right now to jot their names down. And if you haven't already started following them on LinkedIn, please go over and do so. They are all putting out amazing, insightful content here on LinkedIn to help educate and enlighten you. Also, ask them to connect, but just be sure that you send a custom connection request and that you add in the note that you saw them here on Executive Table Talk, okay? Because I know they're totally open to doing that. So if you have questions, please pop them in here. But I actually want to talk to all of you and kind of go around and have your thoughts on this. I had a discussion this week talking about business etiquette, that one of the byproducts of being alienated through the pandemic and being isolated and things that have gone on is that people are struggling to debate. So to debate ideas in the office, to have a conversation around opposing views. It seems that we've sort of become very sensitive and siloed, so that if somebody brings up a point of view that isn't your own, people are immediately internalizing that you are being combative, that you are fighting with them, that you are trying to hurt their career. And that's just not true. There used to be a time where you could have, and you encouraged opposing thoughts in a discussion to help create a better idea, and I still really believe that's true. We can't all just hear an idea and assume it's the right answer, right? So I'm really curious for all of you, if somebody came to you and said, hey, I feel like this person's always, negative or challenging me or debating me, what should I do? I think they're being rude. I think they're being inappropriate. How do you discern whether or not somebody is actually being inappropriate, or maybe they're just trying to create a better product, a better work product? Do any of you have any thoughts on that? Any experience around it?
I do.
Great.
I have to revert back to my days at Spotify. I think it starts from the top, like what you said, JT. I think it starts from the top and creating a culture where that is welcomed. And we want everyone's feedback, because in most of the worlds that we're working in, whether it's tech or music or marketing or sports, things are changing fast. I think everyone on this call could agree. So we want those differing opinions, that diversity, especially when we're working with Gen Z and millennials or different demographics. We covet that reaction and that input. So I think, and I'll cut it, it starts at the top in creating a culture that encourages that, for sure.
I love it. I agree with you. We can set the tone of what people can expect. And if we're saying that that's expected and encouraged and acceptable, then maybe people won't react as, as strongly. We'll see it as a positive. Any other thoughts? Lisa, Michael, Lisa?
I also have worked really hard in organizations to change that culture myself. So, it starts with, having the conversations, and they're uncomfortable, right? Where somebody is sharing an idea and you're disagreeing, but you have to get through the listening and understanding their perspective and telling them it's okay to share your idea. I want to hear it. And you have to say, I may disagree with you. And you have to tell the other person they may disagree with you, and this is okay. We have to get through this to understand where each person is coming through. You have to just outright say it. You have to say that we need to understand what's going on. We want to hear what each person has to say, because this is good. This is good so that we can share the ideas. And you have to do that a couple of times before people feel safe to do that. And it could be a little uncomfortable as you do that a couple of times until people feel like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to get in trouble. I'm not going to be beat up. But you have to do that a couple of times, and you have to say it out loud.
I like that, reinforcing it for sure. Michael, you want to add anything here?
Yes. I think it's very healthy and very important, and it should come from the top for people to have diverse, different ideas and different perspectives. I think it's great for the team and ultimately the organization. So I like it. I like it a lot. Thank you.
I love it. We have Chelsea. Chelsea has been a great supporter and watcher of the show. I want to give Chelsea a shout out, but she also has a question that I want you all to answer before we wrap up today. She said, how can you learn the culture of a workplace, right, so that you can improve your business etiquette if it's not communicated directly? So what do you do when they don't map it out as well as all of you have today? And it's not a course like this should be today. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, Chelsea, if you can look at some of your peers or other communication, if you can go in the history or in the first week or so, I'd say set the standard yourself. Meet one-on-one with different people. Find out how they like to communicate by Zoom, by Google Teams, by email. Like, put yourself out there that you just want to figure out how I could support you. Want to get to know you for a 15-minute coffee, Zoom. And how can I support your team? How do you like to communicate best? And then you start to get a vibe on how that company communicates, and then watch like a hawk some of the emails from your supervisor, a peer, and someone below you, and try to keep an idea of, wow, okay, this is the style of the company. And I bet sometimes if you dig a bit into HR or reach out to HR and look at, hey, does the company and do the founders have some type of slides or presentation on internal, like Michael said, having HR kind of own it on internal communications, I bet they might be able to provide you with some support.
Love it. Love it. Anyone else? Lisa?
Yeah, I think just to add on to Catherine, meeting with key stakeholders throughout the organization, just setting up those meetings, and then just asking them, hey, can you tell me what the culture is like at this company? What should I know? What things should I watch out for? What things should I take advantage of? Things like that, in addition to the communication style that Catherine said. But just ask, what's the culture like?
Love it. Michael, any final thoughts?
Yes, I think observation. If you just looking and listening and seeing what's going on, I think you can learn a lot just by looking and, of course, asking questions. Especially just as Lisa and Catherine said, key stakeholders. Find out what's going on. But it's very important to communicate.
I love it. And I love the fact that you're all encouraging them to do so, because I will tell you this, all of us as executives will agree, when somebody proactively comes and says, I am trying to figure out the culture here because I want to put my best foot forward, right? I want to have proper business etiquette. That's a sign of a good employee. So on that note, I want to thank all of you for attending today. I also want to give a shout out to another one of our listeners today, Victoria. She gave a great, going back to that idea of debating in the office and presenting different ideas. She said, I think there's a certain etiquette to disagreeing in a productive way too. A softer way to disagree could be to say, hey, I see this a little differently. Would you be open to hearing my thoughts? This is exactly what we're talking about, Victoria. That is a beautiful example of proper business etiquette. And I wanted to make sure that we share that today. Folks, you did an amazing job. If you have not already jotted down these elite executives' names, do so. Find and follow them on LinkedIn. And if you are brave enough, and you should be brave enough after today, send them a custom connection invite. Use your business etiquette that you learned today and ask them to connect with you. I'm sure that they will. Unbelievable, as always, executives. I feel so blessed to have you as part of our elite executive community here at Work It Daily. I really look forward to having you all back here on the show. And until next time, everyone, remember what I tell you. If you want to win, you got to work it daily. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.